Happy Friday, Notre Dame fans. Mike Singer and Kyle Kelly live on the Blue and Gold YouTube channel. Thank you for everyone tuning in to today's show, whether you are watching live with us, watching the replay, or listening via podcast. Very appreciative for you guys making us a part of your day. Lots to discuss. We did not have a show last Friday as I was traveling seeing recruits, and we're going to talk about my travels this past week. And Kyle was seeing prospects at the Under Armour Ohio camp last week, and then was just in Chicago on Sunday seeing recruits at a Tom Lemming photo shoot. So lots to discuss, folks. But Kyle, before we dive into it, man, what's new in your world, man? You've been have a good week?
Well, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers that are watching the show. My mom likes to tune in every now and then, but I know she's out and about running errands right now. But yeah, pretty good week so far. I know I've been talking about on Lou Samoji message board about a little bit of country music beef happening. I know there's some Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef also happening, I hear, and hopefully no beef on this show between Mike and I today.
Oh, probably, man. Just you know what triggers me. You talk to me every day. You know what really gets me going. If you want to talk about rankings or how we define the word priority when it comes to recruiting, all of those good things. Quick shout out to Liverpool FC. Season's closing down. Good season. Not exactly the season I would have hoped for you to talk to me about it 2 months ago, but I will take it back in the Champions League. But we can talk about that at a different day. So, yeah, folks, please hit the thumbs up if you are watching live with us. If you're watching back, that'd be very much appreciated as well. If you're listening via podcast and you like our shows, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts, especially those listening via Apple. So, okay, couple comments from Sergio. Marcelo just posted that he effed up. All right, let's pull up the old Twitter and let's see if this is true. Because if you guys have been under a rock this week, there's a 24/7 guy who tweeted out that Notre Dame was not in his like top 35 of college football. So I want to. Okay, so here it is. Hold on, folks. This is not recruiting related, but I'm fascinated. So Notre Dame is going to be in my top 10 later this summer when Riley Leonard is healthy and working with new receivers. Did not expect so much venom with my silly early top 30. I should have just included them. I was complicating it. Love y'all. I made a mistake. Okay. I will take it. Generational walk back. Okay. See, my whole theory on this whole thing was that he just forgot to put Notre Dame and was just like, I'm just going to stick with this. I really think that when he put the top 30, he just forgot about the Irish because that's what made the most sense to me. But we're going to move on unless you had some burning thoughts on this, Mr. Kelly.
Well, I've done a lot of stupid stuff during my life, and when I do, I try to walk things back kind of in that manner. So I know what a poor walk back looks like more than anything, but good for him for owning the mistake. But I'm with you. As soon as I saw that guy's list and there's no Notre Dame in his top 30, I just figured this was a classic just forgetting a team. So yeah. I'm with you there.
My take on, I think he just forgot to put Notre Dame in there. I don't think he was trying to troll the Irish. I think, like, I don't know, Brandon, but just to come to the conclusion right away of he's just trying to troll Notre Dame. Like, I get it if it's some Michigan fan or something, the college football blue bloods guy or the boomer guy. I forget, the Oklahoma fan, do you know what I'm talking about, Kyle? Whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about. The boomer guy who does the top 50 lists and everything. Like, I get that, but like, this is like a respected, reporter in college football. Like, I don't think he was trying to troll Notre Dame.
No, highly doubt that.
But so I think that is what made the most sense. I got a lot of pushback in YouTube and tweet comments about Mike. How can you think that he's obviously trying? I think that the most obvious. Okay, we're not going to get into it. I think you just forgot the Irish, but all right, we're gonna move on. So Sergio also said Zachary with the eyeball emoji. So that's actually where we're going to start today's show before diving into our time on the road. So 2025 defensive backboard in a pretty good spot. You have Ivan Taylor committed. He's a freak show. You got Dallas Golden committed, who I got to saw practice. Kyle, I dropped the ball in forgetting to put that footage together. He didn't do a ton. It was their first day in practice. Excuse me, their first padded practice of spring ball for Berkeley Prep. And they did a lot of Oklahoma drills. And they were not going to have Dallas Golden getting hit a ton. So I got some footage of Golden running around, not a ton, but I will have that together for a future show, I promise. So you got Mark Zachary on the board. Notre Dame would love to have him join the likes of Ivan Taylor, again, who I think is an elite prospect. Dallas Golden, a big time prospect. We saw Taylor work out at corner at Invasion last year. Golden looks fantastic at safety on his film. Notre Dame has it flipped. They like Golden at corner, Taylor at like a safety or a nickel spot. We'll see how that progresses. Ethan Long, a safety from Connecticut, who we both really like, and then Creed Thomas from Arizona, not super highly ranked, but I think a really solid corner who has strong technical ability and some solid upside. So, kind of the updates here, and then I'll throw it over to Kyle. Is Mark Zachary? Everyone and their brother seems to think that he's trending towards the Irish. If he commits to Notre Dame, my August 23 will go down in the record books as one of the hottest prediction months ever. 8 for 8, and all of those guys did not commit in the month of August. They were at least end of September on. So none of them were silenced. They weren't, he committed and I just logged a pick. No, they were all guys who had not come to a decision yet. So if Zachary picks Notre Dame, it'll be epic. So you got Zachary. But we can't be right 100% of the time because I thought Tristan Haynes was going to go to Notre Dame. That ended up trending away from the Irish for multiple reasons. I'm not going to talk about today, but Haynes committed to Oklahoma, so he's off the board. And then Jameer Joseph, who is a 4-star corner per the On3 industry ranking, number 175 overall prospect, number 22 corner. He is now being. I thought Notre Dame was going to trend away here, but I'm told that Joseph is now being looked at by Notre Dame as a safety recruit. So you got Joseph on the board taking an official visit to Notre Dame. And Jadon Blair is obviously the other huge safety target for the Irish. So to kind of put a bow on this, Kyle, you have 2 corners committed in Golden and Thomas, 2 safeties committed in Taylor and Long. And it looks like they're going to take one more corner is my guess. And it looks like Zachary could be that guy. And then at safety, you got Blair or Joseph. That's kind of the rundown on defensive back recruiting. And Kyle, as long as I've been covering Notre Dame, this is the best looking defensive back class that they've signed. I mean, in some years, Creed Thomas would be like the number 1 defensive back the Irish should sign in a class. And he might be like the lowest ranked guy. So it is one hell of a defensive back haul. They still got work to do. They got to close on Zachary. We'll see if they can land Joseph or Blair, but it really is trending to be in a good spot for the Irish.
Yeah, and I think the really intriguing thing is, I mean, you kind of touched on a little bit, is a lot of these guys can play multiple positions too. They're not just set towards being, one guy field corner, one guy a boundary corner. This guy's a nickel. This guy has to play field safety, and we see that on their film, and we trade notes with Tim Hyde, who has great observations of all these guys as well. And just based off what I've heard in talking to the guys, they basically all tell me the same thing, that they're kind of positionalists in a way. There's not one exact safety spot or one exact cornerback spot that they see them at. So I think that is That's pretty exciting for the defensive back group at Notre Dame, and heck of a job by Coach Mickens this cycle to get all these guys. And I'm with you because they need to close on Zachary. I think we all feel pretty good that that one is going towards Notre Dame there. But we're all kind of waiting because he said he was going to make his announcement before official visits, and his first official visit was slated to occur at the end of this month. Now, I think we still get a decision before then. But yeah, interesting recruitment there nonetheless because the Irish are far and away the favorites. And in terms of like this entire defensive back class comparing to past Notre Dame defensive back classes, I think this one could rival 2016, where they had 3 guys in the same class all end up in the NFL.
Is that Julian Love's year?
Yep, Troy Pride, Julian Love, and Jalen Elliott. Pride and Love were draft picks, and Elliott was signed as a free agent. He didn't really last in the NFL too long. Either did Troy Pride. Julian Love's still kicking it, though. He's carved out a tremendous career for himself. But, I mean, and how many times can we say that recruiting classes go by and Notre Dame doesn't have one guy go in the NFL from defensive backfield? And now they had 3 in 2016. And then I know we are projecting so far out. But I know that in 2020, the 2025 class, guys like Ivan Taylor, Jadon Blair, if they get him in Dallas Golden, like those 3 could very well turn into NFL type players for Notre Dame.
Yep, I love it. I like your point about the position versatility. Like, I think Long is 100% a safety, right? Just talking about broadly positions, Thomas is a corner. I think he could play some safety, just like I thought Ben Morris could play safety as like a cover 2 safety.
Thomas was a heck of a safety last season for Brophy.
Yeah, so I could. Oh, well, maybe it's just Long then. Maybe it's just Long. But hell, Long is a fantastic basketball player, so we'll continue the versatility there. But like Taylor, I love anywhere in the defensive backfield. Dallas Golden might be a better offensive player than he is as a defensive player. I just think he's so good, and I'm really excited. I do apologize for folks watching on YouTube that I didn't have this the video prepared. I was on a lot of calls this morning, and Kyle, I got a call at 2 Eastern today, so we can't go too long today. But yeah, they're just like you can just tell when he's moving and catching the ball. You're like, yeah, that dude looks a little different. Like he is a fantastic prospect who can play all over the place. Zachary, another big time basketball player, big time receiver. I know you got to see him play against IMG, and he really held his own and then some more in that game. Who else? Taylor, I talked about that you can play anywhere in the defensive backfield.
Jadon Blair is actually a heck of a hoops guy too.
Heck of a hoops guy. Joseph, corner to now safety for Notre Dame. So, dude, just Mike Mickens, Chad Bowden, these guys, Freeman, Golden. I mean, seriously, I'm not here trying to be a Notre Dame homer, but the credit is due. Like that the first year I started covering Notre Dame is the 2020 class. It was Landon Bartleson, who his career at Notre Dame ended before it started, got in trouble with the law. Clarence Lewis, was Xavier Watts in that class? Yes, Xavier Watts is in that class. X turned out to be, I mean, he was a really good recruiting for the Irish, but he turned out far better than I think we all would have thought. I mean, he's a freak show. Like, I think that was the DB class. And like 2021 had Philip Riley, Chance Tucker. I can't remember all the names off the top of my head, but just like when those guys were recruits, like nice recruiting wins and whatnot, but like this is different. Ryan Barnes is in the 2021 class. Like this is just different. Like some of those guys are like fringe 4-stars. That was kind of what the barometer Notre Dame was set for those early classes when I started covering Notre Dame. But now it's like top 150s across the board. Like it's very impressive. So again, hats off to the staff. So Connor says updated chance for Blair. I really don't do percentages. I kind of have to when I do the whole crystal balls and whatnot, but I usually just kind of do a standard 60%. I think that Notre Dame is right there with Penn State and probably Michigan at the top of Blair's list. He's um, oftentimes when recruits set an announcement date, they've already locked in their commitment silently. Blair has not done that. He's got his officials lined up. I think it's 7 official visits. I don't know if he's taken his first. I want to say he's starting on this month. So he's going to be very busy. Louisville, I think Virginia Tech, South Carolina, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan. Just a few of the schools off the top of my head. I know he's taking OVs too, but I think Notre Dame is in that lead group, and I think they've got as good of a shot as anyone right now.
Yeah, he already made the visits to Virginia Tech and Louisville, and now he's shifting to the 4 schools that I would really consider the strong contenders in this race: South Carolina, Notre Dame, Penn State, and Michigan. I think I side with the latter 3 schools as being in that top group. I mean, South Carolina's sneaky though. I know his family likes him or likes him and Coach Beamer there. So that's a school to watch, especially being in the SEC, a little bit different of a vibe than Michigan, Penn State, both Big Ten schools, and then Notre Dame, who plays everyone in the country. I think coming out of Jadon's extended spring unofficial visit, Notre Dame felt like the leader in that one.
Yeah.
So, and Michael X was recruited as a wide receiver.
100%. I couldn't remember because I know he flipped for a minute there, but 100%. Yeah, I just looked and he was recruited by old Delvon Alexander, everyone's favorite old receivers coach. So that even furthers my point about DB recruiting for the Irish. So there was another 2020 DB in that year. Then Ramon Henderson. So Ramon Henderson, Clarence Lewis, Landon Bartleson, I think was your defensive back class in 2020. Maybe there's another, but so you can just see the trajectory for the Irish. So the defensive backfield just totally flipped, 100% flipped. He was 2019.
Okay, that's what.
So he was, a little bit of, and that was Cam Hart was in 2019 too, but Cam was recruited as a receiver. Kyle is very much a unicorn, very much so. Same. On and off the field. So, Michael, thank you for reminding me that. Let's move on to talking about some travels from your 2 friendly neighborhood Notre Dame recruiting reporters. But first, you guys know I have to ask a couple of questions. And we're going to see if I can do this whole ad read just off the top of my dome. So are you a displaced cricket? Yep. Okay, Mike, words. Are you a displaced corporate executive? Or are you wanting to put your career in your own hands? Or are you an experienced entrepreneur wanting to diversify? Well, Andy Ludicky can help you out. Andy's a huge college sports fan and franchise veteran, having owned multiple franchises and businesses. No, I'm going to need the ad read here. Using Andy's expertise, he can help you find your American dream through a very thorough consultation and evaluation process. So give Andy a call and put your life and career in your own hands. Best of all, Andy's services are 100% free to use. So what do you have to lose? Find your perfect franchise at myperfectfranchise.net. Give Andy Ludicky a call. It's 404-973-9901. Check him out at myperfectfranchise.net. for more information. Singer, you will lock alone. That's crazy, man. Really excited for Liverpool's offseason. Going to see them in South Carolina. Liverpool Man United in at the Gamecock Stadium in Columbia. That's going to be hot as all heck, but I'm super pumped to see Liverpool in person. Did not get to see them in 2019 when they were at Notre Dame. That is a lifelong regret, but we will carry on. Yeah, folks, if you're not done so yet, please hit the thumbs up on this video. So we're going to kind of go in order from my travels this past week. So I drove down to the Orlando area, dropped off my wife at our hotel near Disney, went to Disney Springs last Thursday night, which was a lot of fun. But before we went to Disney Springs, drove over to Cocoa High School to see a couple of Notre Dame targets. Now, I was A little disappointed that I did not get to see Jayvon Bogs, the 2025 four-star receiver, former Ohio State commit, who Notre Dame offered earlier this year. He just had a minor injury, so the staff held him out. But just in talking to Boggs after practice, it seems pretty crowded in that recruitment, and I personally don't believe that Notre Dame is going to be a big contender for Boggs. He's the 4 schools to watch, I think, are Georgia, UCF, Missouri, and there was one other that's at the top of his list. I think Notre Dame is probably on the outside looking in here. So for all the folks who have been, commenting, there's one guy in our YouTube chats all the time and on Twitter who's just comes in here all the time and says Boggs and Notre Dame, Boggs and Notre Dame, Boggs and Notre Dame. I love how you're trying to speak it into existence, but don't think it's going to happen. I think it'll probably be like a Georgia, UCF, or Missouri. And I forget the other school. Do you remember the other school was?
USC. He's got an official visit scheduled.
Yeah, but he was saying 4 lead schools, and I don't think USC was one of them.
Might be Florida. They're on the recruiting prediction machine.
Hold on. I'll just pull up my article. Give me a second. Hold on. You guys are getting a freebie here. Yeah, maybe it was USC. Whatever. But I think Boggs is trending away. I feel like it wasn't, but it might have been. You might be right, Kyle. So Boggs, I do feel like is trending away from Notre Dame. The other prospect, the Coco, it was Brady Hart. And so I was at their practice Thursday, and I think it was Tuesday. Gaduli and Denbrock were also in this area. So I missed those guys by a couple days. But Brady Hart, I have footage on his practice that I took. And I got to say, I was pretty darn impressed with Brady Hart. Just kind of like a play style comparison is like a 2-inch taller version of CJ Carr, just to kind of give you an understanding, like very clean mechanically, moves well, and a pretty polished passer with a high upside. So yeah, Brady Hart looked good. I'm going to kind of skip some of this stuff. Let's get into a little bit more of the meat and potatoes. But yeah, solid outing for him. Missed some throws, but overall thought Brady Hart looked fantastic. And then in terms of the recruiting process for Brady Hart, I think Notre Dame is like, if he picked a school today, I think he would pick Notre Dame. But the question here is, when is he going to pick a school? Because he told me, you can find the article blueandgold.com or go to Brady Hart's On3 profile and find the articles on him. He seems to be trending towards wanting to commit to a school after his junior season. He still told me there's a chance he could do it before his junior season, but that is not the more likely scenario right now. So Notre Dame, Penn State, North Carolina, I think are the 3 biggest contenders. Florida still in the mix, but I think that the kid over at Tampa Jesuit and Will Griffin, teammate of Notre Dame running back commit Justin Thurman, by the way, he is more likely to end up with the Gators. So Hart, this is just me kind of just giving my thoughts here. I think Hart, I wouldn't rule him out to be Notre Dame's 2026 quarterback. The guy we're about to talk about next is getting more buzz, but Hart just saw like these picks go in for Will Griffin to land at Florida. There's prediction for Grubs to go to Notre Dame out there. So I just wonder if Hart could be sitting back thinking, I'm seeing these guys go to schools that I'm considering. Like, what if I just go ahead and take my spot? So it's a fine line that it's quarterbacks, but all these positions really, like, do I want to take my time and go at my own pace, but risk losing maybe the school that I really want to go to and risk that spot? And it really is quarterbacks, because quarterbacks, you just take one. I mean, tight ends, maybe you could take a couple. So tight ends is another spot where you see guys really commit early because A lot of schools only take one tight end, but with these quarterbacks, you see them pop early because they want to lock that spot in. So I just wonder what's kind of going through Hart's mind with that right now. I think he wants to take some more visits in the summer, and so we'll see. I wouldn't rule out a summer commitment for Brady Hart, but from what he told me last week, he does seem to be trending towards the fall. So Kyle, do you got 60 seconds on Brady Hart? Is there anything you wanted to add here? Any rebuttals?
I do want to stir up my pot a little bit, because this goes back to what I said a couple weeks ago on the show, where I don't really think Notre Dame should be in a rush to take a 26 quarterback, because I think right now they pretty much lead for Brady Hart and Noah Grubs. I think that's the feeling that you've got, especially talking to people close to them. So I would really like to just see what it would be like to let those guys play their junior season and have Notre Dame just find the guy they covet most and go from there. Because it sounds like right now that both those guys are at the top of the board, and I know you run the risk of losing one of those guys. But if I'm Notre Dame and I look at the opponents on our schedule, the offensive coordinator that we have, the wide receivers we're bringing in, I'm thinking that Notre Dame's pass offense should look pretty good than what it has in years past, and that should be able to attract some pretty high-profile quarterbacks. So I'm a little bit more patient in this upcoming cycle than you are, I think. But I think either one of these guys, Brady Hart or Noah Grubs, even at this point in the process, are must-takes if you can get them.
Yeah, so Gino saw Grubs at camp last year. Were you at that camp, or was that not one that you could go to?
I was at every camp they let us into last year.
So what did you think of Grubs when you saw him throw?
I didn't know Noah Grubs before there. I think he was at the camp that Ethan Long and a couple other targets.
Okay. So Gaduli worked with Grubs, offered him last June, and he saw Hart throw in December. Now, when Gino was just at these guys' schools this week, he saw Grubs practice, and he did not get to see Hart because these guys practice at the same time and whatnot. I obviously did not get to see Grubs. I saw him Friday morning. I'll talk about Noah in a second, but he's seen both of these guys. Like, they're not putting a gun to the kids' heads and making them commit. It's just, I don't think that these coaches really want to mess around a whole lot. I think they've made their evaluation. Gaduli's also seen Troy Hunn, Brady Schmeigel this week, Ryder Lyons, the Deegan Rose kid from the Folsom area. So, he's still covering his bases, looking at other quarterbacks.
He's seen a lot of quarterbacks.
Yeah, seen a lot of quarterbacks.
Pretty much every top guy in Florida.
And from what I know, saw Diabell, the kid from Seminole. I think he even saw the top kid from Chicago. What's his name? Jonas Williams. So another thing is you're going to start landing commitments this fall at the 20. I mean, you already got one in the boat in Dylan Faison, 26 receiver. You want a quarterback in before the fall to help recruit. It's not the be all end all, but I think you want a guy in now ish. Before September, you want one of those guys. So I think they've made their evaluations and they love Hart and Grubs seem to lead for both. And the option is out there for either of them to commit. And then in terms of Grubs, just in my conversation with him, and you can find this article blueandgold.com. This is all stuff that's on the record from both of these guys that I'm talking about. Like, Grubs seems to be more ready to make a commitment to a school. And Notre Dame, also North Carolina for Grubs, and Miami seem to be the schools among his top 10 that I think have the best chance for him. So I personally, I've said this already. I think Notre Dame leads for both. So it's really just who wants in first. So it's a freaking great spot for Notre Dame to be in because they really like both quarterbacks. Guys offer, some differing skill sets, but at the end of the day, I think Notre Dame would be pretty ecstatic to take either. You said Dylan and not Jordan, so I did it correctly. Dylan, yeah. All right, good job, Mike. Rare W there for Singer. So
there's gonna be 2 Faisons on that Notre Dame roster come 2026.
Yeah, and I will mess it up even more at that point. So that's kind of the rundown. You know, I know Grubs has more buzz, but I wouldn't rule out Hart. But yeah, we'll just continue to see the gist. And I wrote this in an article this past Friday, did like a little intel on Notre Dame 2026 quarterback recruiting. But the gist is, if you have not read anything or watched any, talk about Notre Dame quarterback recruiting in the 26 class for 2 months, not really much has changed. Just the only big change is that both guys visited in the spring. Other than that, we're still just kind of waiting. Like we feel it's going to be one of the two. We've been saying this for months now, and it's just going to be a matter of who jumps in first. That's really it, Kyle. So
yeah, there's picks in for both guys on every website. So I mean, they both like Notre Dame. Notre Dame is in the top group for both guys, and it's just going to be a matter of who gets there first.
Yeah. And then on Monday afternoon, went and saw Dallas Golden at Tampa Berkeley Prep. Dude, I took sunscreen and then forgot it and left it in the car. Felt like an idiot. So as Dallas Golden was going through, you're just kind of standing around, hyping up his teammates and whatnot. I feel like he's really taken a leadership role now going into senior season. So with him not doing anything, I was like, I got to get out of the sun. I didn't take my big, kind of straw hat kind of deal. So I was standing behind a pole, the only spot in the shade. So I probably looked like a weirdo creep, but I had to get out of that sun. It was brutal in that Tampa afternoon. But once they got into positional work and, he started running some routes. Tampa Berkeley Prep has a lot of guys on their football team that are doing baseball and track. So there's only like 25 guys out there. But yeah, he worked at receiver and a little bit, at safety when they're doing some like defensive conditioning drills. It was kind of cool. But otherwise, yeah, what wasn't a whole lot to take away, but thought he looked really smooth as an athlete, and I will have that footage at another date. So, yeah, Dallas Golden did look kind of up to the billing, in my opinion. It's my second time seeing him. I saw him last spring as well, and I will certainly get eyes on him this fall. So that kind of wraps up my road travels. Now, you
Mike, you are on mute, my friend.
How long was I on mute?
10 seconds or so.
Oh, okay. I didn't hit mute, so I don't know what happened there. That's weird. So, okay, that kind of wraps up my my travels from last week. Now, Kyle, you were at the Under Armour Ohio camp. So we're going to go through some guys here. We're going to start with probably the biggest name that you saw, and that was Talon Taylor. A huge 4-star receiver target for the Irish in the 2025 class. We're going to have to go rapid fire here, Kyle, but thoughts on his recruitment and his performance at the camp?
Yeah, I guess the way to put it is I think it was a disappointing day for Talon Taylor, but I think it is some much needed context because this cat had like a 3-hour workout on Saturday, a pretty grueling Saturday, and then hopped in his car with some friends, I think, and drove 6 hours to Canton, Ohio to come compete. So I think he was a little bit drained going into that camp, and I know the quarterback play was especially frustrating for him. But, just seeing him move around and things here, you can tell he is one of the best athletes in this 25 cycle, a natural pass catcher. Footwork maybe needs a little bit of work, and I think he did tell reporters afterward as much. He does need to work on his route running and things of that nature. Yeah, but Talon Taylor, he's only a high school junior, so plenty of time to develop. I still firmly believe he's one of the best wide receivers in this 25 class. A lot of schools are treating him as such. Coming out of that camp, the buzz was firmly that it was Ohio State, Georgia, and Notre Dame in the mix. I felt this is more of a Georgia Notre Dame battle. And then, Talon spoke to On3's Chad Simmons last week in Orlando and reiterated the same comments that his commitment's going to probably come down to one of those three schools. So if Notre Dame wants to get it done, that official visit in June is going to be pretty important because he'll be committing to a school shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I love it. And I love kind of the recruits don't have to say anything. Like they don't have to do interviews. They don't have to really give much. But I love Taylor and kind of just being like, yeah, there are other schools in this, but it's probably going to be one of these three. I did kind of like his openness. Let's go to another 2025 prospect, and this is Notre Dame commits Christopher Burgess. Thoughts on how he looked.
Yeah, I mean, there was no incentive for Chris Burgess to come to this camp, and I wrote as much. I mean, he's already committed to the All-American Bowl, so he wasn't looking for an Under Armour All-American game invite down in Orlando. He's committed to Notre Dame. He doesn't need to put anything else on tape, but he just wanted to come there and compete and get better, and that's exactly what he did. He showed up super focused and locked in, and it just showed through his performance throughout the day. I mean, he's just super focused. And the thing that I found really impressive about him is he kind of took it on himself to be a leader among that defensive line group. Just really went out of his way to continue encouraging guys throughout their workouts. I don't know how much you know Chris, Mike, but I know I've obviously gotten to know him throughout his recruitment. He's a quiet guy. You don't really think of Christopher Burgess being a more outspoken type of player, but he was that when I saw him on the final Sunday there in April at that Under Armour camp, and really impressive guy. I mean, I think after seeing him work out, he could play strong side defensive end or Viper. I lean towards strong side defensive end at this rate, but guy moves well. Massive strides from what I saw from him down in Kansas City and at the Irish Invasion camp a year ago. And this is just Christopher Burgess has come to South Bend as a big mold of clay, and the coaching staff and strength and conditioning staff is really going to be able to develop him any way they want.
All right, let's move to the 2026 class. Now footage for folks watching on YouTube of Demarcus Weiss from Ohio, a pot of gold offer by Notre Dame. And someone who probably got to feel like Notre Dame is an early leader for.
Yeah, that's him right there, rushing from the 3 technique position. A little bit more stockier of a build, thicker than a Christopher Burgess. Weiss projects as a true interior guy. A little bit more raw, kind of reminds me of what we saw from Christopher Burgess a year ago at these camps. So still really powerful guy. A lot of the schools are starting to get on his radar. He picked up a Wisconsin offer the day before that camp. But this guy's just got natural power and strength. And you just kind of think about what Demarcus Weiss can do once he continues to get in that weight room. I mean, he's already a pretty big and strong guy. So I think this is going to be a really powerful and dominant interior defensive lineman at the college level. He's already shown that in the high school ranks, has over 24 or around there defense or tackles for loss last football season as just a sophomore. So be interesting to see who gets involved in that recruitment.
All right, moving along. Next up, I believe this is Braden Jones. If I grabbed the right one, and he's over at Mount Carmel in Chicago, right?
Yes, sir.
26 defensive end.
Yeah, he is probably my top of the board Chicago target in the 26 cycle. I mean, they got multiple guys, actually most of them on the defensive line with Gabriel Hill from Naperville North, and then Mikhail Blade from Southside Chicago. But I think Braden Jones is the guy that I think Notre Dame should prioritize here. I mean, he's got the length, he's got the size. He's already over 6'5", about 240 pounds, just a huge guy. And you can see him just at this Under Armour camp. I mean, he's so much bigger than all the other guys going out there. And, just like a lot of the other sophomores, we saw on the during this camp day is, not as refined technically as some of the older guys, but just super impressive football player. I know it's a guy that Tim Hyde likes and has said so much about him on the Loose Emoji message board. Notre Dame might be the team to beat here, or they are the team to beat early on. I mean, Braden Jones told me and a couple other reporters at the event that Notre Dame's #1 for him, and Ohio State's going to be the school to watch. He admires Larry Johnson, the Ohio State D-line coach, and the Buckeyes' defensive line development, but Notre Dame might have something to say about that after taking Javonte Jean-Baptiste from Ohio State and developing him into an NFL guy.
Okay. Moving along, we have, last but not least, Ben Nichols, a 2026 offensive lineman, an interior guy, I believe, from Davison in Michigan. So I just quick thoughts on, we got about 30 seconds of action here. So just give me thoughts about his outing and, a quick take on his recruitment, because I like where Notre Dame's at early for him.
Yeah, Ben Nichols is exactly what you're looking for if you're Joe Rudolph in this class as a interior offensive lineman. As you can see in some of the tapes, does not look as comfortable as a tackle, but he is 100% guard at the next level, and that's how Notre Dame is recruiting him. And I think Notre Dame has a really good shot to land his commitment. When you think of a recruit from Michigan, think Rocco Spindler, who kind of came from this area, and that was a Notre Dame-Michigan battle. I don't see Michigan being involved here for Ben Nichols. At least they aren't right now. So this is a Notre Dame-Penn State battle, but I feel the best about the Irish taking this commitment. I know we can say that for a lot of guys, being that we covered Notre Dame, and we're always talking about Notre Dame and asking the kids about Notre Dame. So it always feels like Notre Dame's going to land all these guys. But I can say, in talking to Ben Nichols pretty extensively, I do think Notre Dame's the team to beat right now, with Penn State running as a close second.
Yeah. And then wrapping up with your time on the road the weekend after, you were in Chicago and got to see a handful of 2026 recruits and even some 2027s, Kyle, from that area. Again, at the Tom Lemming photo shoots, which is always loaded. Tom does a great job getting some of those guys out there. So, just kind of want to give me some quick hits on some of the guys. I don't have profiles pulled up, but just some of the guys you saw and a couple sentences on each recruitment.
Yeah, so I will say for our YouTube audience, if you're not subscribed to Blue and Gold, would really encourage you to get there on our website. 2 months for $1. Use that code UND1. All of our premium content, you can access all that for just $1. And
crazy.
The recruiting season's heating up too, man. I know we're dishing out a lot of reports on all these guys heading into June. So we're going to have a ton of great stuff. I mean, you're bringing the scoop every day. I try to, fill in the gaps when necessary. But I'm really pleased and, excited with our coverage. And I think for $1 for 2 months, just to give us a try, that is an absolute bargain. So, anyway, I wrote pretty extensively in a premium story on Monday. And if you're subscribed to Blue and Gold, go check that out. If not, you know how to. That appeared on Monday. I took over your gold standard intel piece. All the top guys in Chicago, and ironically, a lot of those top guys are on the defensive line, who I mentioned, Mikhail Blade, Gabriel Hill, and Braden Jones. You guys know where I stand for Braden Jones right now. I mean, the only reason I don't have an on-3 recruiting prediction machine selection for Notre Dame to land Jones is because I just want to see what happens with Ohio State. Depending on how long they take to offer, I could end up throwing one in there for Notre Dame, but I think the Irish are in a pretty good spot in his recruitment. Same thing with Mikhail Blade. Mikhail told me that he wants to see every school in the country. Now, I think he was being a little bit optimistic when he said that, but I think that was his way of telling me he's pretty open to this point. But it's also very clear with the connection he made with the Notre Dame coaching staff during his 2 March visits that Notre Dame is probably the leader in his recruitment right now, if not among the top. And as far as Gabriel Hill, the Naperville North defensive lineman, he's a little bit more different than Braden Jones and Mikhail Blade, for the fact that Blade and Jones, they're both going to end up as defensive end or edge guys. Jones maybe has a profile to be like a Riley Mills and play on the 3 technique. But when you talk about Gabriel Hill, this is a true nose tackle guy, 6'2", can probably get up to 300 pounds easy. He has great size. He is a little bit more of a reserved type of personality. So was not able to really connect with him as much as I would have liked. I just think he's a guy that's really trying to get a feel for how college football recruiting works. But man, this guy couldn't be nicer over text and message, always thanking reporters for coming to see him and everything like that. Just in person, he was a little bit more quiet. But I will say, with the sense that I got, and I put this in my story that I did on Gabriel Hill, in addition to the gold standard intel piece I wrote Monday, the story that I wrote separately on Gabriel Hill this week mentioned that Notre Dame kind of aligns with what he's looking for in a school. So we'll see how that shakes out moving forward. Those were the 3 primary guys off the top of my head that Notre Dame is really targeting from the Chicago area. Now, there's a number of guys without offers that are in big-time consideration. One, a fan favorite of the loose emoji message board, Brad Fitzgibbon from Chicago Marist, one of few 2025 defensive linemen still on Notre Dame's board that they're picking or considering about giving an offer to. And the reason Fitzgibbon's recruitment is so important, because this was another big takeaway that I had coming out of the Lemming Chicago showcase. Notre Dame has kind of shifted where they see these guys positionally. Because Dominic Kulak from IC Catholic Prep, big-time linebacker, Notre Dame took him as like their next Marist Leofau. Now they see him as their Vipers. So they see Dominic Kulak being the next Jordan Botello, Isaiah Foskey, Junior Tui Halamaka. And name that was also brought up with Dominic Kulak was Josh Burnham. So I think they could possibly see Kulak ending up as a strong side defensive end. So that has really changed. And then when Joseph Reif, I was kind of under the impression he was more of a 3 technique, but the staff has pretty much compared him directly to Josh Burnham as well. And they kind of see Reif, depending on which way his body goes, being a 3 tech or a defensive end. So anyway, I was been pretty hell-bent over the last couple of weeks that Notre Dame needs a Viper in this class. Why are they not getting a Viper? Why are they not recruiting a Viper? Why are they only recruiting interior defensive line guys? Now we have our answer. It's because that
I told you to just,
Christopher Burgess, I haven't heard this directly, but just watching what I've seen from Christopher Burgess, I think he has the ability to play snaps at Viper, so I'm not as concerned about that. But they're just really looking for another Davian Dixon or a 3 type interior defensive lineman in this class. Yeah. Therefore, that's why they're recruiting guys like Brad Fitzgibbons, Jalen Wiggins, guys that all fit that mold.
Yeah. All right, Kyle. Fantastic insight. You could take a sip of water if you got some.
I got one more for you because it just came through my head.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
J.C. Anderson, the tight end from Decatur, Illinois, Mount Zion.
Mm-hmm.
Southern Illinois guy. I saw him in back-to-back weeks. Notre Dame is toward the top of that recruitment right now because him and his family absolutely love Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator, tight ends coach. I think Tennessee, Illinois, there's a couple others there. Penn State for J.C. Anderson. Some of the teams to be aware of in that recruitment, but the sense that I kind of got is if Notre Dame makes a push for him, he's going to come camp at Notre Dame this summer. And I know, Mike, you'll remember this. They also brought a tight end in the 24 class up to campus to camp when he was entering his junior season, Jack Larson, and he left campus as a commit. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happened with J.C. Anderson. I think he's a little bit more open at this point in the process, but reminds me a little bit of Larson's recruitment where he's got all these big-time schools after him early, but I think Notre Dame could carve out an early edge for him.
I like it. Yeah, good insight. I told you, man, just like we always kind of figure like, okay, with a lot of the front 7 guys, they're one thing right now, but then they're going to grow. Like these guys all get bigger and they're just going to move. So with some of these positions, I hate even saying like, oh, they're this, because they're all going to, like you bring in 4 linebackers in the 2022 class, one of them's gone. And then like the other 3, like Ziegler's at Central Michigan now. And then like Sneed, Burnham, and Tui Halamaka are all like pass rushers now, so they all move around and whatnot. It's such a versatile move players around. Position group now. It's really in the front seven now. Nose guards are nose guards like Davion Dixon, and like Sean Sevillano. That's pretty locked in. But otherwise, everything else is just like, who the hell knows, man. They all move around. So I told you, man, like I told you Notre Dame felt really comfortable, that you had your concerns, but they felt all right. We always thought that Hulock might end up at Viper, but now we got clarification, not only from Hulock, but in kind of following up with sources on the Notre Dame side of things. Like, yeah, Hulock is Hulock. Correct, Kyle?
Hulock, indeed.
Hulock, yeah, is a Viper now for Notre Dame. So I'm going to put you on the spot, Kyle. I don't know if you got to listen to our Wednesday show with Hyde as you work out and whatnot, but we talked about top 5 most important states for Notre Dame recruiting. Now, Tim and I did a lot of research on this, and I'm just totally putting on the spot. So here was Tim's top 5. He included Indiana and Chicago as one, so that's not really fair, but that's Tim Hyde for you. 2 was Texas, 3 California, 4 Georgia, 5 Ohio. Now, and this was a lot. His criteria was a lot towards like Notre Dame guys who've gotten picked in the NFL draft in the past 25 years. Here was my top 5, and this was much more past 10 years. Who has Notre Dame signed from this state, and who has had, or who like which guys from these states of Notre Dame had a really good hit rate at. So I had Illinois 1. You just laid out all these guys in Illinois in the 26 class. Like Notre Dame's really got a hit in their backyard. I got California 2. It was like Notre Dame signed 24 guys in California in the past 10 years and some really strong hits. 3 is Ohio, and I felt pretty strongly about the top 3. Now 4, 5, 6, 7 with states like Florida, Texas, Georgia, throw in New Jersey. You can even throw in like Missouri. Flip of a coin for me. I threw Florida at 4, partly because of how I think they're trending in that state now with IMG Academy and being very involved there. Haven't landed a ton of guys at IMG, but very involved. Schools like Berkeley Prep and Jesuit and Tampa Catholic, some strong private schools in the state of Florida. I put Florida at 4, and they signed 20 guys there in the past 10 years. And then Texas at 5. Just it's Texas. I mean, this is the best high school football state in America, arguably. So what are your thoughts? Do you have a top 5 here? And we just got a couple more minutes here, Kyle.
Yeah, no, I kind of do, because these are like all story ideas that I have floating around in my head. Like, why is Notre Dame not succeeding in these areas? And these are the areas I think that should be in that top 5. Number 1 would be Chicago area. I'm going to go with areas more than states because I think it's a little bit more relevant, but I'll try to hone it in to a
whatever you want.
So number 1 would be Chicago for obvious reasons. Number 2, I'm going to go with SoCal. With USC not being as dominant over there, they need to continue to capitalize in that area. With all the Catholic schools around there, they got to make some mid-roads at Mater Dei, St. John Bosco, all those schools there. The Kingston Diliamu-Asa recruitment was a massive recruiting win. And I think as you see Kingston continue to thrive at Notre Dame, that's only going to help their presence in the Southern Cal area. So that's number 2 for me. Number 3 would be the DMV area, where Notre Dame has not had a lot of success.
Okay.
But there's just so many Catholic schools there that are dominant high school football programs. When you think of DeMatha, St. John's Prep, Gonzaga, there's Good Counsel, that's in Maryland. So there's a ton of schools. Even there's a school in Richmond that Mike Brown, the wide receivers coach, was at this week. Trinity, that's got 2 of the best wide receivers.
Yeah, you got St. Christopher's. Now, I don't think Richmond is really considered DMV, but I'll give it to you.
Yeah, no, I'm just kind of lumping all the Virginia and the DMV there. So that's the other one. And kind of a similar areas, I really would like to see Notre Dame continue to succeed in the New Jersey area, because that's really good high school football. They've had success recruiting guys like Don Schuler, Cam Hart. Or no, Cam Hart was in Maryland, I think.
Yeah, Cam Hart was good counsel. Yeah.
Yes. So, but like
Steve
Elijah
Angeli.
Torres. What's that?
So Steve Angeli.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, those types of schools, Bergen Catholic, and a lot of those schools in New Jersey, I think are really important. And I'm with you with Florida because
Okay.
Florida is probably a top 3 football thing in the entire country. But I feel like they have more. Notre Dame, it's probably easier for Notre Dame to make headway into Florida than it is Texas because of the competition in those states right now. Miami hasn't been great. Florida, not good. Florida State, one really good season. Now in Texas, you have TCU, just went to the college football playoff final. They are what they are now. Texas has become a juggernaut. A&M, I mean, they're extremely disappointing down there, but I mean, Texas served a lot of really good football programs, a lot of really good football programs surrounding that area. Whereas we've seen in the Nick Saban years at Alabama, Saban just went right down into the Sunshine State, picked apart every recruit he wanted there, and brought them all to Tuscaloosa. Now, I think Notre Dame can take a little bit more focused approach in Florida, and they have. I mean, they're legitimately getting 2 of the very best guys in that state in the 2025 cycle with Ivan Taylor and Dallas Golden.
Yeah, and they've got four in Florida at 25. It's impressive. Which again, my top 5 was more past 10 years, and I didn't include 2025 class in my data, but I still used it on the side because I was like, yeah, they got 4 guys in Florida, 2 in Tampa, 1 in Orlando, 1 in South Florida. So you had Chicago, SoCal, DMV, New Jersey, Florida. You don't have Ohio in your top 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of because all the top guys in the state, they all go to Ohio State.
Yeah, but Notre Dame still
been that
done
way
pretty
for
well in Ohio.
so long.
Still
So
do well. They still do well in Ohio.
they do, but I think it's I don't want to call it second tier guys, but it's the guys that all don't end up at Ohio State. Now they've beaten Ohio State for guys in Ohio, but it's most of the guys they get in Ohio are
it is tough. So yeah, I think Ohio might be more building out the roster with the Carson Hobbs of the world, which is a really good player. But yeah, it's still an important state for me just with the talent of football and the location. Like that's where you got to build. You got to build close with Chicago. Michigan deserves a shout. Not as much as a shout for me, but they're probably in the top 10. But anyways, I really got this call, Kyle.
Real quick, and I really got one more point because I want to clarify this top 5 region states, whatever the hell you want to call them. I did that based on what Notre Dame needs to prioritize in the future, not what's happened in the past. So
yeah,
I'm aware of what's happened in the past. Now I'm going to see Notre Dame attack those places.
And I like this. Usually I get on to Tim when he just takes the criteria and just totally twists it. But for this one, I was like just like do it however you want. So I liked your input on this as well. Folks, if you have not done so, hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our channel for more content. Yeah, I got to hop off. I got a call here at 2. So in 2 minutes here. So we're going to end the show there. Really appreciate you guys watching or listening. Head over to blueandgold.com if you need even more Notre Dame coverage. We got a ton for you there. We post like 10 stories a day during the week. So if you're a Notre Dame junkie, blueandgold.com is the place to be. So really appreciate you guys for tuning in. And as always, we will catch you next time.